Broadcasting live from our studio in Boston with presentations from prominent industry vendors, Solutions Review presents Data Demo Day, a virtual trade show for data management and analytics.
I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and welcome to another Demo Day. For this edition, we're highlighting 3 category-leading solutions delivering data management, data analytics, and data integration. This will be a jam-packed event with a lot to show you, so let's get right into it. First up is TIBCO Spotfire. The worlds of BI, analytics, and data science have been on a collision course for some time now. There's no shortage of data, just a continued explosion from new sources like IoT and increasing numbers of network-connected edge devices. So how can that be harnessed to make more actionable insights for today's decision makers? Well, TIBCO Spotfire has developed an analytics platform for real-time decisions with interactive visual analytics and embedded data science. It serves decision makers end-to-end with guided analytics for business users, as well as data scientists to deliver smarter, data-informed outcomes in less time. And joining us to dive deeper into this solution from Boston, Massachusetts is Brett Stupakevich, Product Marketing Manager at TIBCO Spotfire. Brett, thanks for being with us.
Hi, Doug. Also from Greater Boston. Great to connect today. I'll always love to talk data analytics.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. We've been trying to get TIBCO on a demo day for some time now, and we're thrilled to have the company. But I'm also excited to have you in specific being the person we get to engage with, because you have a really diverse background with regard to not only the industry, but also who you're working with while you're working currently in your role. So before we get into all of it, can you just walk us through a little bit of kind of how you've evolved through the industry? I know it's been in a couple of iterations with TIBCO, and also what you're doing right now, because I think that'll be pretty valuable.
That's great. It's funny to revisit this story arc in the retrospect every now and again. But yeah, to talk about it, I sort of began as a marketing practitioner generalist, right around that time of like inbound marketing being like the latest craze of like, right around the turn of 2010 or something like that. And by default, I think because I had so much data at my fingertips, you have your CRM system, you have your marketing automation system, you have Google Analytics, you have social data. It was kind of like this confluence of, well, let me see if I can distill some sort of insight, right? And I feel as a young marketer, I had data at my fingertips, and it was honestly what kind of, I followed my nose, a little bit of intellectual curiosity to continue to grow my skills and practice analytics myself. And I call myself an accidental analyst in that regard. So that's kind of how I tell my story of my beginnings. But then I kind of continue to follow that again in a variety of what I'd call SaaS analytics applications, both for enterprise clients as well as smaller, even like B2C type tools.
Yeah, so, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, this is the kind of evolution that you've witnessed, that we've witnessed as well at Solutions Review. We really started covering the space around the same time. And like I said, it's been an amazing evolution. Tell me a little bit about what you're going to show right now, and then I'll set some expectations around what we're going to do for the next hour or so.
Absolutely. So first is a little bit of an orientation and walkthrough. I love the intro you gave. I think I share a lot of the same sentiments, and I think that what I plan to show at first, before we get down to the crux of what I think people really came to see, which is of course Spotfire in action, the demo. I'll lay a little groundwork for where I think it's mostly, I think maybe this is a little bit of a lens from me on it too, is that as a product marketer, I do a lot of listening. Right. So I'm listening to customers and where the success, where the pains, where, I hear a lot of remarkable success from early adopters of those who are really taking the convergence of a lot of different analytics and data technologies and how they're seeing really high value returns by finding the integration points, but also net new value, things that perhaps have not been achieved before. So I'm happy to share a little bit of that vision for you, how I feel like Spotfire and TIBCO executes on that, but then more importantly, in action. Have a great demo. So.
Yeah, tremendous. So I am going to take a step back. I'm going to turn the presentation over to you. I'll be back in about 35 or 40 minutes, and we'll go through some QA. If anybody has any questions from the audience at any time, please send them along, and we'll pour them over to Brett. Otherwise, best of luck with the presentation, and we'll talk to you shortly.
Yes, happy to be talking TIBCO Spotfire specifically as the visual analytics front end for the predict side of the continuum that you see before you right now. That's where we will be focused on today. But I first want to say a few words about TIBCO as a whole. TIBCO has quite a portfolio of market-leading technologies across the landscape, really, for the connected intelligence platform. And that is what allows TIBCO customers to connect and unify their data, as you'll see here, but also then take those insights to be able to predict confidently for faster and smarter decisions and ultimately better business outcomes. And TIBCO serves 21 of the top 25 global 2000s currently, as well as quite an extensive partner ecosystem, businesses really of all sizes, not just enterprises, to serve some of the world's toughest data challenges and complex data challenges. So what do we see then as some of those complex fundamental challenges? I think we can acknowledge that extracting insight and value from data is hard. It is difficult. So many varieties, so many formats, whether we're talking structured or unstructured, messy data, perhaps unprepared, of varying quality. And apply that across a myriad of disparate data sources. So how does Spotfire, specifically within the TIBCO portfolio and the predict side of the platform, simplify that? And it's really as a visual exploration and data discovery platform, it reveals the most valuable business insights at scale. How does it do that? By way of those capabilities on the lower left. We're talking, the augmented analytics trend that's popular in the space. Also, really exceptional geoanalytics exploration capabilities, underpinning data science and advanced analytics, and the capacity for real time for all of the application building as well. One of the classic market pains that I think still remains in the BI space, the traditional BI market, is the fact that data for decision support is not really actionable when or where decision makers need it. And that is in that moment of decision. So there's actually some leading research out there most recently that showed that despite the growing data volumes, we're in like the hundreds of zettabytes now, only 7% of businesses would identify as being advanced in their insight-driven business capabilities. So the most compelling part about that stat for me is that has actually been flat at 7% for the last 3 years. And with the growing data volumes, there's obviously no greater capacity for uncovering more insights from that growing data volume. So that's one area that we focus on at Spotfire to make insight more actionable and accessible, close that time to decision for those better and faster outcomes that we're delivering to our customers. And whether that's by way of an augmented human decision or by way of a continuously automated decision, Spotfire is playing that central role as the engine that's powering the decision loop. And as you make your way here from left to right with me, we have all those disparate data sources on the left, various sources, different formats. How do we make these more actionable for the human decision maker? And as we move our way over to the right side of the continuum on loop, Some of those processes are automated. However, we feel it's very important to keep the human in the center of that decision loop. You hear a lot of talk now about like human in the loop AI or such. Humans are not going away. We have a very active role to play in the center for tweaking and tuning things like algorithmic bias, accountable AI, explainable AI. We all play, if you can think about an analyst role, for instance, in say like a process control workflow, these are ways that human and automation work together, again, in this augmented way. And it takes the best of what was traditional business intelligence, but complements it really with the ML driven capabilities that are available now to augment that decision maker. And I love this quote: if you can compress the time between a business event, getting the data ready for analysis, completing an analysis, and taking an action, that vastly increases the business value. And that's from our Chief Analytics Officer, Dr. Michael O'Connell at TIBCO. And my takeaway from that quote is that decision models must be, at minimum, table stakes, data informed, okay, but more importantly, they need to be agile. They need to be agile enough to adapt to what are risks and opportunities as they develop. That doesn't happen in a batch process, right? So on shorter frequencies and faster turnarounds through these closed loop decision models. And Spotfire delivers on that in a variety of ways. First of which is, again, through that augmented experience for the business decision maker. You talk about our recommendations engine, which has ML-driven recommendations, identifying relationships and patterns within your data set, not just one table, your complete data set and analysis, again, of all disparate sources, to bring to light these suggestions to explore further. So that's one way that Spotfire executes on this popular augmented analytics trend. It's also the basis for our demo today, and you're going to see that, I promise, in just another 2 minutes. And we're going to show you that guided exploratory analytics app building experience. Next up, I would say another key capability underpinning the power of the advanced analytics in Spotfire is that of embedded data science. So, you think about the growing, emerging role of something like a citizen data scientist or an advanced analyst who can say code a little bit of Python. Spotfire has these utilities that are low-code application tools called data functions, which are essentially like reusable building blocks for the purpose of repurposing. They are prepackaged data science. You can plug them right into your analysis and essentially borrow the brain of a data scientist to scale those sorts of advanced analytics insights throughout your everyday business applications. And this includes native scripting and management and bundles for engines of Python and R right in the platform. And it's also language agnostic if you choose to use other tools. And what you're actually seeing on the screen here, I'll draw your attention to, is the active tuning of parameters and variables in a model directly in line with the visual analytics experience. That's something our team has worked very hard on, is to wed those experiences of interactive visual analytics with data science. And you're seeing here from a clustering visualization in an advanced analytics app, someone's just tweaking, tuning a parameter, and you can see the clusters change before your eyes. And that's really powerful. We have a lot of data functions for anomaly detection, many others available directly within our Spotfire library, right in the product. And for those who have the need to make a good deal of volume of real-time decisions for monitoring use cases or other things and consume streaming data sources, Spotfire has incredible capabilities for real-time analytics. It's what you're seeing in front of you right now is a monitoring of a live webcam in Sydney, Australia. It monitors traffic as part of a smart city application. So we're actually using image recognition services under the hood here to use classification techniques for object detection. And it's actually in real time classifying which types of cars, average speed, traffic volume. So you can start to see the potential for analyzing data at rest and in motion in the very same analytics environment, we're talking not just static rear view data, but rather you're encompassing real-time data, probably from an edge device or IoT sensor from the field, coming in, real-time analysis, fed right into what is really a dashboard for monitoring. So you can start to see the applications for this in a lot of physical asset intensive industries requiring things like predictive maintenance or that sort of upkeep in operations in industrial manufacturing, for instance, is another popular one. So it's really through those three primary capability sets that I would say has led to this evolution or this latest leap into what we call hyper-converged analytics. And I'll read it for you. It's visual analytics, data science, and streaming capabilities together in a seamless experience that deliver immersive, smart, and real-time business insights in an easy-to-use and tailored way. And this represents, again, I'm voicing the success stories of our very mature analytics practitioners, our leading edge customers who are out on the front. They've been through a lot of advanced POCs over recent years with data science, and you might even call it AI. So they see far greater value realization and faster when they use some of these technologies in conjunction and in concert with each other. So it's really, that creates like a net new value for the value they're seeing on their returns for those better outcomes. And I want to point out too, it's not just about the technologies that are delivering it. It's also hyper-converged analytics refers to, on the lower right, you'll see a lot of common data titles. There were obviously, formerly centralized in IT. Okay. Years ago, we have the analyst role, which is still popular. You mentioned, I mentioned citizen data scientists. There's also the citizen developer explosion among data engineers who are building out these very sophisticated pipelines for ML models, really. So, there's greater interplay and interaction across these cross-functional roles, so as to say, there are so many intersections of how these roles are interacting with data now that you truly need what is an end-to-end analytics platform that is really highly governed, that allows both the business analyst on one side and the business user to self-serve, do their thing, but also through the gamut, all the way to the data science team. So I think we're going to see some of that on display. Right now, I'm very excited to now transition over so you can see Spotfire in action. And it's going to be a great immersive analytics application building experience from my colleague. I'm very proud to have on hand in support Senior Product Manager from Spotfire, Arnaud Veron. So I'd like to now hand it over to Arnaud.
Thank you, Brett. Spotfire is powerful for modern dashboarding and analytic applications. But I want to show you where Spotfire really shines, which is about analyzing data and learning from data. Okay, so now I'm taking the place of an analyst for a telco company, and I'm interested in analyzing my customer share. Analyzing data in Spotfire obviously starts by connecting to the data. It can be from the Spotfire library or connecting to external data sources from a long list of connectors, including real-time streaming data, or from copied data, or from local files, or also from a data catalog with seamless access to my organization's wide data catalog. For this demo, I will simply load some customers' data that I have locally by just dragging a CSV file. Now, looking at the data, we see customers' personal information, their status, active customers or churners, as well as service usage patterns over the last 12 months. And I also have a separate but related dataset which contains charges that might be useful to join with our initial datasets. Adding this data, you see that Spotfire automatically recommends adding it as new columns. In just 2 clicks, we join the 2 datasets, and we have those new charges columns added to the datasets. And each time we can see each of these actions taken on the data from the data canvas, which provides the complete picture of your data in the form of data pipelines that also allows to author each step of the data model. Now that we have connected data to Spotfire, we can start analyzing it, taking the place of the telco company, trying to find ways to reduce churn. The business problem we have is how to retain customers. So let's see if we can find why customers churn and what are the possible drivers. We are presented with 3 ways to move forward, to explore and analyze data, and you will see that for each starting point, Spotfire helps you find insights faster using AI in the background and automated insights. First, we can start by looking at the data and what interests us in the data if we know what to look for. For example, device information, channel. Here, Spotfire analyzes relationships between devices categories and other fields in the data as well, and recommends visualizations based on how strong the relationships are. Note also this data cleansing recommendation that Spotfire recognized there are some extra white spaces between words, and I can remove these white spaces with just one click. Secondly, if we already know what we want to visualize and how, we can just start by creating a visualization. We have more than 40 different types of visualization in Spotfire. But here, in this example, we'll use a simple bar chart. Spotfire automatically creates a bar chart that we can then tweak to show the data we are interested in. For instance, here, I will drag the charges over the last 12 months. And I will split that by the customer statue. That's how we create visualization from scratch. The third way to start is for when we don't really know where to start, and that's the case today. We can start asking questions to Spotfire. The first question we have in understanding how to retain customers is why they leave us. So asking Spotfire which customers churn most. And as we type, the Spotfire AI engine runs in the background to look for relationships in the data and whether customers churn or not. Spotfire lists a number of recommended visualizations ranked according to the strengths of the relations found. And from these answers, we see a relationship between the type of device and incoming calls customers received from customers who left us. Let's add this recommendation to the canvas to start our analysis. On the visualization, we retrieve the relationship with the statue on the x-axis and the incoming calls from churners on the y-axis. We can change the aggregation method easily, if desired, directly from the axis selector. And here already we learn something from this chart. Churners tend to receive a higher number of incoming calls from other churners. And this actually makes sense because for telco companies, it's really often that churners bring other customers along with them because they received advantages from other providers or incentives to bring their entourage along. In addition to this, the Spotfire AI engine also found another relation with the type of device represented with colors. We have 5 categories of devices, and actually it looks like there is an error here with some category that are categorized as rugged, that should actually be rugged. Let's fix this. We have 2 ways to fix this. Either we can decide to group these 2 categories together, or we can directly replace the values without leaving the analytics flow. We want to fix the data, so we just create a detailed visualization to drill down to the data with error and show it in the table and replace the value to the correct ones. Directly from the table, we replace the value. And we are done. We can close the table. Now that the data is fixed, we want to make this relationship with device types more evident and better represent proportion. So I switched this bar chart to side-by-side mode. And you notice that the green bar here is lower than the rest among churners and refers to these people who use rugged handsets, meaning that churners using rugged devices usually receive less incoming calls from other churners. What might be interesting to know now is who are the rugged device type users. They are probably the ones more prone to damaging their device. Maybe they drop them often. And it's possible that these people churned for another provider because maybe they broke their phone and found a better one somewhere else. we will follow this hypothesis. Let's find if there are any additional recommendations from Spotfire when it comes to customer statue. Here is one recommendation from Spotfire between extra charges calls and incoming calls from churner that we can drag and drop to the canvas. Now, even though the AI engine found a relationship there, this chart does not look that interesting to us. But what we can do is ask the AI recommendation engine to propose more visualizations based on this relationship. So we go back to the data panel and ask Spotfire to show me more like this. And here we see something different to the previous scatter plot. We have this density plot, which may be interesting and that we drag to the canvas. What Spotfire does with this visualization is that it separates the churners from the active customers. And we retrieve the same initial relationship as in the scatter plot. By comparing the two customer stats side by side, we easily spot the differences in that for churners, they tend to pay way more extra charges and they tend to have a very high proportion of incoming calls from churners. This is not true for active customers, and we can examine this further by selecting both churners with large amounts of extra charges and churners who have a large proportion of incoming calls from other churners. As you can see, marking data in one chart automatically marks the same data in other charts as well. This is what we call automatic brush linking, and in this case, it shows us that these people relate to our first bar chart that we plotted against the device types. It shows us that these customers we selected are those who are using big screens, micro handsets, or sleek and simple devices, but none of them are using rugged devices. And this tells us something again. It tells us that fewer of the people who are using rugged devices are influenced by their friends and family, and fewer of them bothered about the extra charges. And this information kinda confirms our hypothesis we made earlier, that customers who are using rugged devices are different. So again, it is possible that these people who use rugged handsets have churned because maybe they broke their phone and they found a better one somewhere else. So with this example, in just a few minutes, just by asking the Spotfire AI engine, we have these insights which informs the next step of our analysis. For instance, now the telco company may want to create a customer retention plan targeted to a specific group of customers to treat them directly, differently, offering better phones or specific protection plans as part of their deals. My second demo is about data science. Data science in Spotfire is part of the visual analytics experience. It's an integral part of the visual analytics flow, and I will show you how it works now. Here we are looking at a dataset from the OECD with about 20 indicators: demographics, economics, incomes, life expectancy, environmental indicators, criminal measures, and self-reported indicators like life satisfactions and deaths for a list of 38 countries. We plotted this data in a parallel coordinates plot, an excellent visualization when analyzing multivariate data. We could have used a radar chart, but we have way too many indicators, so we stick with the parallel plot. And we also have a map as a detailed visualization, so when we can select countries in the parallel plot and see how these compare on the map as well. For example, here Finland and France. We see they are very similar in life expectancy, but not at all when it comes to how safe they feel when waking up at night. And due to the number of indicators and the number of countries, this approach to finding similarities or groups of countries might take a while. That's why Spotfire makes it easy to bring in data science to help you in your visual data discovery process using data functions. Here we want to depict similar countries. And to do that, we should try to generate clusters of countries based on these indicators that we have. From the effects layout, you can find your favorite data functions. Data functions enable analysts and business users to do complex things with data without knowing the technical side. They are ready to use, no code and reusable building blocks to add new capabilities to Spotfire. We have a long list of pre-built data functions from simple data prep, data enrichment, geospatial algorithms, to advanced techniques using machine learning and predictive models. And for data scientists, data functions are a great way to package R, Python, MATLAB, SAS function. So as a non-data scientist, I just search for data functions in the Spotfire library. Just in the same way as visualization, I search for clustering here. We have multiple results with different clustering methods, and we can learn more by showing the details. We have K-means clustering, DB-scan, or here optics. And looking at the description of the optics clustering, this one might work fine for analysis. I can decide to add it to my FX flyout, or just use this data function. Here we can read in the description that this clustering data function is using the optics method, and we have two parameters to set. We also have a link to learn more. The first time you use a data function, it's important to read about the parameters to make sure you set them up appropriately. I want to use this data function to cluster on all relevant parameters from my data, so I select all indicators that I have in my datasets. Now I have a second parameter to control the minimum number of data samples that should be considered to constitute a cluster. If I set it to 4, for instance, then the algorithm will create a cluster only if a minimum of 4 countries are similar. Now that the input parameters are set, I click OK, and for the output of the function, it's just a single generated column describing the cluster assignment, and this column will be added to our original data table. Spotfire understands that and automatically suggests this new column to be added to the original dataset, and I click OK. And we have now a new column called cluster ID that we can easily drag to the color axis for both the parallel plot and the map chart to see the number of clusters. Note that the -1 cluster is to be interpreted as not belonging to a cluster at all, or noise if you will. So here we got 2 clusters, since -1 is noise. Now we want to see if we can get to some more granular clustering. One of the magic in Spotfire is that we don't have to get back to the data function settings to change the clustering parameters. We do that directly from our visualization without leaving the visual analytics flow. From the color axis, we can change the minimum value, let's say to 2, and hit refresh. Now the data function reruns and we get 5 clusters. And if we look into the clusters, by selecting clusters, we can see that we end up with clusters that are in most cases consisting of countries that are geographically close. This simple insight sounds interesting and I want to keep it and eventually share it with others. So I just right-click here and add a comment. In Spotfire, comments are really used as tools for collaboration. This is not just a comment placed somewhere on my analysis. This comment incorporates the state of the analysis at the time I added the comment, meaning that it contains the data that I selected, the page as well, and any eventual filtering. I'll get back to this in a moment. And one more thing, in my first demo I mentioned the data canvas. The data canvas was designed to provide the complete picture of your data and to allow you to alter each step in your data models. And you will retrieve data functions from the data canvas as well, as visual representations of data functions instances that informs you instantly about how input parameters are set and how outputs are used within your analysis. And along with visual data pipelines, we can also, of course, edit data functions directly from there. This makes it easy to adapt data functions to changes in the analytics context, and it's also a great access point for reviewing all parameters. And this is how data functions and data science work in Spotfire. We think data functions enable anyone to use data science. It's truly embedded in the visual analytics experience. There is no need to leave the visual analytics experience to apply data science techniques. It's built in. Also, as part of Spotfire, we provide what we call statistical tools. For instance, for investigating relationships between different column pairs or to highlight line similarities, as well as tools to incorporate predictive models into your analysis using either regression modeling or classification modeling. If we take the data relationship tool, for instance, it allows us to choose from different comparison methods based on the type of columns. So let's choose one, and I select all the columns. Once you run the tool, Spotfire automatically generates a new page with each combination of columns, the degree of prediction from one column to another, as well as a visual representation here in the scatter plot to display the correlations. Okay, so we use the clustering technique to depict similar countries, and I want to share these insights with others. To do that, I just need to save my analysis to the Spotfire library. When saved, I get a shareable link to open this analysis on the web, and I can also send access to this analysis by email. And when I open this analysis from the web as a different user, I get the exact same experience with the same interactivity. I could actually have started this whole analysis from the web as I get access to all the same types of visualizations and data functions. Taking the place of a business user who consumes analysis as applications from the web or from a mobile device, I get the same results and experience. I see there is a comment. Clicking on it will show me the comment I posted earlier and the associated states with the related marked data. I can interact with the data and reply with another comment, which also will include the states of my analysis, and hit reply. I can also tune the clustering function right from the visualization to go to more granular analysis. And doing this means that I run a pretty advanced clustering technique without even knowing this is a Python data function in the background. And I can get to further insight that I can comment again and share with others as well. So, by publishing analysis on the library, from analysis built from the desktop client or the web client, I can quickly and easily share insight with others in my organization. And as I said earlier, we see lots of use cases for modern dashboards and applications this way. It could be for modern advanced dashboard like I showed before, or for very simple storytelling apps. Spotfire data functions that I showed you a glimpse at earlier easily integrate with external machine learning platforms like AWS SageMaker, Google Cloud Platform, AutoML, H2O, Spark, Azure ML, AI platforms, and can also be used with Spotfire's built-in R and Python interpreter. I just wanted to give one example with a template that we provide for Amazon SageMaker, which uploads your data to Amazon SageMaker autopilots to find optimal models to use based on data profiling. And this template automatically generates visualization and model explainability in Spotfire. So let's say you have a business scenario and you want to understand certain variables or metrics. Maybe the relationships between them, or maybe if you want to predict future values or key metrics. This is where autopilot in Spotfire may be very handy. Here we want to try to find which variables we want to predict in our dataset. Here quality has a certain relationship with other variables and might be something we want to look further into. We use AWS SageMaker Autopilot to help better understand the data using automated machine learning. Going to the top left, we have some settings. Here, a unique job ID if you want to save and reuse this job. We need also to pick up the column to predict. And then a problem type. So these are the different types of machine learning problems, but if you don't know which one it is, you can let Autopilot decide for you. And then finally, the last setting is the maximum number of candidate models. The larger, the longer to run, but maybe with a better accuracy. After doing so, all I have to do is click the Run Amazon SageMaker Autopilot button. And what is happening is our data will be sent out to Amazon SageMaker in S3, and our process will be kickstarted. When completed, you will be automatically taken to the Job Results tab, where you can learn more about the results from the job. On the top left, you see some info about the job, how long it took, and some training metrics used to evaluate the model. So here we have a training and validation score, and what you're looking at here is the Autotest best model. What it does is trying out all these different models on different configurations and find the one that best fits your data. And you see the results on top and also at the bottom. On top is the Autopilot validation set with its predictions. And here they are colored on the same scale and side by side, so we can compare how well the prediction matched up with the actual quality based on how these colors look next to each other. Colors that are closer together indicate a better prediction. High contrast might not be as good. Then on the bottom we have a visualization generated. Here for a regression, it shows that predictions match with actual variables, in this case quality. It allows us to assess how well these two match up. For a classification problem, it would have generated a confusion matrix, which is a common way to visualize results for classification. In addition to this page, we also have a model explainability page for further insight into our model. The main metrics that we are using is something called SHAP. SHAP is essentially just a variable importance metric, so you understand how much of the variable played into the model's decision making. So from the top left here, we have all the variables sorted by their SHAP value. So at the very top is alcohol. And this model found that alcohol was the most important variable when making termination. Clicking on alcohol, we have a scatter plot of variables with quality, and then on the top right, we have the distribution of all the SHAP values for alcohol, and what this is that each row will be giving its SHAP score, and that is how much weight a variable has in this model prediction. Compared to all variables here, alcohol has a pretty high SHAP value, and it makes sense because it says the higher alcohols it contains, the higher the quality is in general. And we see that in this distribution on the bottom right as well. Now that we learned a bit more about the model, there are going to be a couple of ways to execute this model on future data. The first is doing this in batch mode, like it is set up right here. If I want to make a prediction based on new data, all I have to do is click the Run Autopilot model, and it will run similarly to before. And in addition to this, you can also create a model endpoint. And what this will do, it will create basically a model that is ready to score your data on real-time data. So if you just move this to real-time endpoint with a job name, you can basically get instant scores on data streams on real-time data. And this wraps up my demos. We have multiple machine learning templates available for our customers. I could mention a few, like anomaly detection, variable importance, pricing calculations, risk management, sentiment analysis, customer affinity scores, supervised learning classification. We have dedicated templates available using AI and ML platforms, also for image recognitions and root cause analysis.
All right, I want to thank Arnaud for that presentation and bring Brett back into the conversation. Brett, a lot going on there, and actually this is kind of a good color commentary moment for you to give us not only a few key takeaways from that presentation, but really what do you see as you're talking to prospects are kind of the key differentiators that people lean on as they're deciding to go with Spotfire?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Doug. And I do feel that, Arnaud brought that to life of how I sort of laid the ground in the beginning of, like, if with so many of those emerging roles in the analytics space where it's becoming more of a team sport cross-functionally, not just the world of the analyst or the centralized IT administrator. A lot of people with their hands on the data, a lot of different needs, huge new need for governance. I think there is that need for that end-to-end platform solution where that analyst can do the thing of self-serve, explore, and then the data scientist can be also hard away, working at, like that last application with AWS SageMaker or building new data functions for other business users in the organization. So it's really like, I think as long as you have a lineage that can be shared as like a shared asset and knowledge for how can your platform serve so many different data stakeholders with data needs. I feel like whether it's been that business user doing the exploratory app up front, or rather some of these in the latter part of our nose demo, I think we did see the whole gamut today. So,
no doubt, and honestly, your website does a remarkable job of sharing customer success stories, and really, I would encourage everybody to check it out. It's impressive. The biggest of the big are using TIBCO Spotfire, and there are some really incredible customer stories. But actually, we have a fairly diverse audience, and I'm curious about getting your take on solutions like this for the SMB market as well. I mean, I have no doubt that you have the sales team covering all of the Fortune 500 aggressively, but I'm sure there are a lot of emerging companies that are looking to take it to the next level, and they might want to step up to a solution like this.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think that we do serve absolutely our fair share of SMB market as well. And by extension, our partners serve quite a number of them. So I think we do, like I mentioned during my piece at the beginning, while we do have some, like you said, Doug, just incredible poster children for analytics maturity in our enterprise realm of customers, I think that we do have some awesome cases of SMB success as well. Obviously, the licensing model, and I'd encourage people who are interested to check that out. But of course, we have a solution for everyone, a package for everyone, and I think that given the emergence of particularly Cloud BI. I think we did see a spike in, of course, given our recent era of times with the push to virtual and the ways that not just large companies, but small companies had to adapt. We saw a huge uptick in cloud adoption. I think the moment of time that we've been living over these last, say, 28 months has really accelerated that. But I think that we've seen that all sides of what would be maybe like a traditional analyst profile, maybe even a consultant in a sort of a one-person shop, not just like those large enterprises, as you say. So,
well, I have a question that we've fielded, and it concerns. Actually, it dovetails along that point you were just making around the evolution of these solutions, and really the democratization, where you're bringing in really, frontline worker, as opposed to, having full technologists involved in building applications and creating dashboards and reporting. We've covered a lot about low code, no code business applications. We actually just had an event last week on that very topic. But tell me a little bit about how that's different than reporting and dashboards. And I think I'm getting that question effectively.
Yeah, no, right. I can appreciate the difference, and I definitely hear a lot of that just in terms of semantics of like, well, is this dashboard a quote unquote app, or but I think that the traditional needs of what is like, say, especially like if you're talking enterprise scale reporting, whole different set of needs versus something of like an app analytics application development platform, right? Like, so I feel like if you're in those exploratory use cases where you have the analyst staff, or your value add as a partner is one of professional expertise, it's like you're usually serving a specific part of the market, right? Like and you're bringing sort of a very fit for purpose, customized, whether it be like, white labeled solution or your own analysis as your service. I see all of those. I think that our platform has the means for delivering, especially with our latest development of what we call the Spotfire mods framework in our generation 11 release over the past year. It does allow for the greater customization of analytics apps. So if you're not talking about just a standard set of building, a self-service dashboard, but rather if you want to customize a visualization to say your line of business, these are like fit for purpose visualizations that could either be developed by someone in-house if you happen to have a developer, or you can borrow them. They've been produced in droves by the developers in the TIBCO community, and those are freely available in our environment where you can just grab and go, again, much like that data functions concept, where it's like these prepackaged, pre-developed blocks to plug into your analysis. I feel like that really behooves like the exploratory use case in a lot of our mature industries for sure.
A question, again, follow on to that, around support. I see that you're launching a new TIBCO community in July, and I know it's a fairly extensive relaunch with a lot of information in there. But talk a little bit about support. What are the types of support options available? The endemic stuff that you've got kind of for the community. I mean, tell a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I mean, we do have we have support offerings. We also have that can be of course those are in terms of the support function globally, but then also we have, like you say, an extensive set of community resources where honestly, it's I'm referencing now, we recently held our TIBCO Analytics Forum only 2 weeks ago, and it's just awesome, especially coming out of this era of time that we've been in, to see the customer helping customer interaction. TIBCO does have a vibrant community of not just customers, but partners in our ecosystem where we see that it's customers and partners helping customers and partners. It's really awesome to honestly see them help each other, but we have ways to scale that. You mentioned the community platform that will be a great enhancement that's coming, but there's a wealth of information, not just on the TIBCO community, but the way that you see our maybe sub communities within products at TIBCO engage. We have a very engaging program called Dr. Spotfire, which our lead data scientist who heads up that program, he's fantastic, Neil Canungo. So we're constantly providing, I think, best practices in the way of not just like how to, but rather learning from sort of like those who've maybe, again, like I said, done those early proofs of concept or sort of out on the leading edge of adoption of, say, like, we mentioned hyperconverged analytics, but who's adopting these technologies, and what can we learn from our fellow users, fellow customers, fellow partners? We have several touch points for that within TIBCO, and I think I'm most I take a lot of honestly pleasure and joy in seeing when people are helping people, and we see a lot of that in our community. So.
Well, it's interesting because we're seeing that as well. We've been doing a lot of polling with our audience, asking them specifically what kind of content they're interested in seeing from us, and over and over again, it is expert advice, expert guidance, people who have been implementing. Really what they're looking for is that next level sharing that you were just talking about. So well done to focus on that, because I think that's really what a connected community should be all about.
And I think also, I'll quickly add to that, Doug. I know you're sorry, but I think that there's also a wealth of information available sort of on the front end of discovery, where we have really some wonderful resources for people to learn. They don't need to even be customers. And it's kind of like analytics best practices, and some tremendous educational resources. There's almost like product or technology agnostic, but rather the discipline of, approaching analytics. I think we have some great content for that too on the front end, where that you don't even need to be a customer to take advantage of some of that. So, yeah.
Well, and I know TIBCO has been a very active and valuable participant in our Insight Jams at the end of the year, where we're really trying to focus on bringing out as much expert industry information as possible. So we certainly appreciate all your participation there. Just one more question before we wrap it up, and obviously it's a question we always enjoy asking. What's the best way for people to engage and start to have the conversation about taking their analytics to another level?
Without question, I would encourage people, I appreciate your recommendation that people visit our website earlier. We do have some great, on the success story side that you referenced it, but also, like I just mentioned, some tremendous educational resources, again, maybe driven by our own Dr. Spotfire, to get your feet wet, not just beyond, or not just with, like, for instance, like a demo or a trial that you would find on our product page on the TIBCO website, but a free trial, 30 days actually. I would encourage people to take advantage of the full resource set, like I just mentioned 2 minutes ago. So much to engage with, to learn the path of really, I think, an analytics maturity of taking the next step, whether that's for you as, like, maybe you are a business user who's wanting to become, say, analyst savvy, or maybe you're the analyst who's trying to be analyst plus and be that, like, citizen data scientist, trying to code a little bit of Python for yourself. I think for every step along the way, we have the information that help you along that journey. So, yeah.
Well, this has been great. Brett, we appreciate the time. Like I said at the beginning, we couldn't be happier to finally get TIBCO and Spotfire on to our
It was wonderful.
demo.
I enjoyed this experience, and I know that Arnaud, I was very appreciative of him and grateful to him to be joining us. He is in Central Europe, and he was able to make that work. So,
yeah, outstanding. Well, thanks very much for the time, and best of luck in the rest of the year.
Same to you, Doug, and thank you so much.
Well, that concludes this demo day. We appreciate your attention. I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review. Thanks for watching.